Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a multifaceted professional, a veteran with a fascinating journey and an author from the Philippines, originally from the US, Mr. Tommy Kilpatrick. Welcome to the show,
Well,
Tommy.
thank you very much for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you. Tommy is a retired American living in the Philippines, teaching farmers how to build dome structures with bamboo, vertical gardening, and to open free self managed healthcare clinics. He's also an author of a book titled Forgive and Forget How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. So, Tommy, we're going to talk about your book a little later, but tell me about your journey from California to the Philippines and from homelessness to helping farmers.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, about 13 years ago, the wife said, "Get out and take the dog with you."
Hmm.
The best
Hmm.
thing that ever happened to
Hmm.
me. So I became homeless on purpose, and I took a
Hmm.
vow of poverty because I
Hmm.
had never been poor. I wanted to feel what it was like to be hungry at night and not have a place to stay. And I never took charity. I always worked the deal out. I always did something for them and they would exchange that for me. So that's the way I traveled all the way across the United States and ended up in Maine. And I was living on a farm and things were going great. And then shift happens and make sure you pronounce the F.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
shift happens. And I found myself on the outside and decided to go to the Philippines and um, then to do what I was doing in America, it was just so difficult. It's just so expensive
Hmm.
and too much risk. And no one would even work with me. So I came to the Philippines to do what I'm doing here. And then to help finance what I'm trying to do, I wrote a book and it was published on January 30th on Amazon. And you can get it there in India. I've actually seen it on
Hmm.
Amazon there for 6,000 rupees. So,
Hmm.
but I offer free consultation. So if you have a free consultation, I'll give you the book for free. So I'm not really here to sell you a book. I'm here as a kind of like an advocate. I'm a victim's right advocate for you. So that's about my
Hmm.
background.
Amazing. You've lived a vow of poverty for 10 years. What inspired that decision and what have you learned from this vow?
Well, first of all, I walk in faith of God, so I have to trust all the trust and faith in God will take care of me and has, and that I have lived it for this long. And I had years of acquiring things. That's why I thought I had to do it. Being an American, you get all these things. And I was in the back of my mind, that's how they take things away from you.
Hmm.
So I wasn't really interested in the material things. So when I had that opportunity to really feel what it was like, I've been to a village here in the Philippines, and
Hmm.
it's quite poor. And they didn't have a plate to eat off of or utensils. And they're trying to figure out what neighbor would have a plate for me to eat off of. And I said, no, that's not necessary. So they brought the banana leaf out, put the food, and then we ate the food. And I went to another house and it was leaking. And he apologized. And I said, I've been in homes that didn't have a roof. So you have a wonderful home. And so for them to hear that from me, what they consider, from a foreigner, I'm very well humbled. So it was a humbling experience too.
Hmm.
But then the outpouring, the love that people give you and caring, and total complete strangers would help me out. And I wouldn't even ask. They just volunteered and helped me, and I would help them too. It
Hmm.
was a two-way street.
How interesting. You just mentioned faith a few minutes ago. What role has faith played in your life decisions, especially during your most difficult times?
Oh, yes. Well, faith is belief without evidence. So I have to believe that there is a God, something, a superior force above me
Hmm.
and around me and through me. So it's that feeling that I have of love. And I actually have crossed over. I don't really talk about it. It wasn't really a near death experience, but I wasn't here in a
Hmm.
sense. So, and I didn't want to come back. And that's the thing too. So I read a book and it described people like us are called perennials.
Hmm.
I never heard the word of that, but they described it as that people at this event that happened in their life, they come back and they're not really religious, they're not really spiritual, they're not really philosophical. Those things are really kind of meaningless. And they actually have a behavior of a higher moral standard,
Hmm.
but they don't push it in your face. So I just live by a higher moral standard because I have felt the love of God through every cell in my body. So I think and act different than most people.
Amazing. You mentioned that you were once homeless by choice, but I want to ask you another question. How did that shape your views on wealth, responsibility, and society? And what led you to begin teaching dome construction and vertical gardening?
Oh, yes. Well, to answer that one first, I read an obituary of uh, Buckminster Fuller in about 1983. I never heard of the guy before. I read his obituary. Then I read every book by this guy, and he's the guy behind a geodesic dome. So I've been building domes ever since then. I think geometrically. And when everybody meets me, I have a bunch of sticks and hubs, and we start playing with sticks. And I start showing you how things are organized in our world. And it's just very easy to comprehend when you have sticks in your hand and you make it from a vector from one dimension to like a triangle or a square or a circle, being a two flat land, we call it two-dimensional. And then how to get to a three-dimensional way, and I call that the fishbowl universe. So when we look at a fishbowl, you can see the fish in it. But that's what God is to us. God is on the outside, but we're part of the water. We're in the water. So God is part of us and part of the whole thing. So the homelessness was really important. What it has really hit home with me is I wasn't able to achieve what I wanted to do in America. So I've come here to the Philippines, but I am going to be going back. And what I found by living in the state of Maine, which is the most elderly people live there, it's a geriatric state, and most people there own their own home. But because of the fracture, the devolve of our society, there's nobody following up, looking after grandma. So these grandmas are in these big houses all alone. They're cold in the winter. They are hungry at the end of the month. No one's taking care of them. No one's putting any attention to them. And it's just an awful, awful situation of what we have there. So I have figured out that if I can take 5 of these little ladies and put them into one big home, then they would live there for the rest of their lives. And now, instead of living on Social Security and they have no money at the end of 3 weeks, now when I combine 5 and only one house, one insurance payment and maybe 1 taxes instead of 5, it's the economy of scale. But who is going to take care of them? And that's the reason for me to come to the Philippines. When I had married a wife of 28 years, she was a nurse. And when I started hanging out with her at the hospital, I saw 1/4 of all the nurses were Filipinas. So I knew the culture was there to help and heal, and they have this devotion to the elderly. So that's why I came here. And I say in our language, Nagapangita sa asawa. I came here looking for a wife, and I do have a fiance, and her family does have nurses. So this is the whole intention, is to bring a family, not just one nurse who doesn't ever see her family anymore. That's the problem of the overseas workers, is they never see their family. They can talk to them on the phone and stuff like that, but not to be with them. So my whole idea is to bring the family to that house, and they take care of these people on a rotating basis. So they're not there forever. They're there for maybe 4 or 6 months. And then the next family members come, but they get to visit and tour the United States. So all this is paid for. They're paid very well in the Philippines. And then what happens is these 5 little ladies have $10,000, $15,000 every month to spend. And so they can be taken to a concert. They can be taken on a vacation. And for the rest of their lives, because of the economy of scale. So with the 5 houses, 2 or 3 are sold to pay for the new one or a bigger one. But the other 2 houses are now completely paid for. And so we can rent them out as a source of income. So now these 5 ladies have thousands of dollars every month. And so after when 3 of them pass away, that house now belongs to the Filipina family. So they're working very hard. They're not working for nothing. They are being paid very well, but they have the room and board and allowance, and money is sent to the Philippines, which takes care of their family there very well. So the dollar goes a long way. So that's the one thing I want to go back to America and help the housing, to solve the housing crisis.
What a great response. Thank you. Tommy, let's now talk about your book, Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, what does the word nuke mean in the context of the credit card debt?
Right. It's just to blow it up. And as I would be saying, forgive, it's the bank asking for forgiveness that we accept their forgiveness because they're the criminal. They have perpetrated a worldwide bank fraud upon us. So there is not a get out of debt scheme that I'm proposing. What I'm trying to show you is that you are a victim of the bank's fraud. And so don't believe anything I have to say. Look in the show notes, and there are 3 links there. And take this podcast to a certified public accountant. That's what we call them here. And I know you have the same kind of a thing in India. And so have them look at, and I've never even thought of it. I never thought of this, but yeah, I'm right. So my premise is 1, the bank does not have an invoice. And since they didn't sell you products and didn't come out and do a service, they have no possibility of ever issuing a credit card. Because in the olden days in America, we had a general store and you needed 5 pounds of flour, a pound of sugar, and your crops came in is when you paid back the debt you have. And that's where people could issue you credit. You don't ask that merchant, hey, Charlie, can I borrow $10,000? I'm not a bank. You go to the bank. So the banks are only about loans. So they cannot issue a credit card. There are true credit cards, but that's done by a merchant who actually sold you the products and did a service for you. And they have an invoice. If there's no invoice, there's no debt. And you go to the idea that they did a loan. Okay, so how do you nuke your bank issued alleged credit card debt? So with the bank, if you have no money and you go into a bank, you want to walk out with money. That's called a loan. Okay, so let me ask you a question there, Ashutosh. If you were applied for a loan by the bank and they turn you down, do you still get the loan?
No.
No. When you apply and they say no, you don't get the loan. That's the word application. It means to request. It's not a promissory note. It's not a contractual agreement. It's what it is. It's an application. So when you're approved, you go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. You remember that. So you have to have an income, because how are you going to pay the loan back? You have to prove you have an income. You also have to have collateral. So this does not work for a home loan. It doesn't work for a car loan, and it doesn't work for a personal loan. You put up your yacht, let's say, for it. So if it's a promissory note you signed, this is not it. This is where the bank is lying to you, that they make you think you had a promise to pay them back when you really didn't. And the other point is that fraud undoes all contracts. So you do not have a contractual agreement with the bank. Use the card. You got to follow terms and conditions, not when there's fraud involved. So what happens is the banks want to have you as a customer. So as a customer, they would buy in the olden days a wall clock or a toaster. And so when you came into the bank, they would give that to you to open an account. Okay. So what happens is that when they send you that then in the newspaper, it said, come into our bank and deposit $25 and we'll match it in 90 days. So what did I do? I took my $25, put it into a savings account, waited 91 days, and took $50 out. Now, let me ask you a question. Did I rip off the bank? Now, remember, I deposited 25. I took my 25 out, but I took out 25 of the bank's money, and they happily gave me $25. Now, did I rip off or did I steal from the bank?
Not really. Not
No,
that
I didn't steal from the bank. Right. And is that immoral, what I did? No, the bank said, do this. I did it. And so I walked out with their 25 and my 25. I'm out there in the show links. There, the fourth one is a guy who on YouTube says, do that. I've made $361. So this is the same thing as when the Bank of America sends you a $500 credit card. It's the same. It's a gift card. So what you do with your gift card. So let me ask you a question. What would you like to buy for $500 right now? If I could just give
anything,
you a gift card,
I mean,
you were
what
going
you
to buy maybe
decide.
one item.
Yeah, you ask. You give me the answers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like a microphone. It'd be nice to have a $500 microphone. So you go to the store and you buy their microphone. As you're walking out, they're going to say, wait a second, Ashtok, did you pay for that? And you show a receipt. You didn't pay $500 for that microphone. You walked out, but that store got paid that night or the next day. And who paid them?
The bank.
The bank.
You owe the bank
Where'd
the
the bank
money.
get the money from? The bank paid, but it paid it out of their advertising budget. See, that's the thing. They didn't loan any money to you at all. So when you go for a loan, you also have to have collateral, but also have to have proof of credit report, and your credit score determines your interest rate. But you sign a promissory note. That's the thing about a loan. So what did you do? You got a statement in the mail, and it said you owe this money. You don't owe the money. That is a statement. And just like your normal checking account, you get a statement every month. That's not a bill. It shows what you started with, your deposits, the checks, debits, and other fees, and you have an ending balance. Same thing with the bank issued alleged credit card statement. So it's not a bill, but you did the right thing. You were lied to, you were indoctrinated, and you were brainwashed into this whole thing. So what'd you do? You sent a check from your Bank of India to the Bank of America. And that is the first time Bank of America ever saw your money. Here's a show note. The very first one says that you do not make a deposit. What you're doing is you're loaning money to the bank. Banks are only about loans. So if you go into a bank with no money, you hope to come out with money with a loan. When you take money into a bank and leave it there, it's a loan. So what happened is every time you've made a purchase has been with your own money. So in the beginning, it started off as a gift card to get you like a toaster, to get you to be a customer. And then what happens is once you paid the money into your bank account, that's your money. And now it's a debit card. So there is no such thing as a credit card.
Very interesting. But have you tried this with any bank where, you run up a credit card debt of $10,000 and say, I won't pay you any money?
See, law is language and language is law. So when you say you run a credit card debt and you owe the money, you owe the money. When we saw a bank robbery in progress, we always say alleged bank robbery. So that's all I want you to do is to add the word alleged. That makes the bank prove that there's a debt. Okay. So what we do is we send a letter to the bank asking to close your free checking account. Okay. That's all it is. It's a free checking account. But of course, it doesn't sound very strong. We have your certified public accountant say there is no invoice. If there's an invoice, send it to us. So the bank does not have one. The other one, you broke federal banking regulations by issuing a loan without a promissory note. And that's in your show notes. Your second link is the Federal Reserve says you have to, what banks do is they accept your promissory note and then they write numbers in your free checking account. So that's how they create this fiat money. You have to sign the promissory note first, but you never signed one. So what we do is we have to note that a crime has happened. So here in America, you can also work there in India too, but we get the credit report and that shows a credit card, which it doesn't exist. The bank cannot issue that and to make these claims. So then we have you file complaints with the state federal authorities, and now you're a victim and you've got the evidence, you've shown that you've actually complained. We send that to the bank, ask them to close the free checking account associated with this card, and here is our complaint about the fraud you're doing. And if you happen to sue us, we have a countersuit and we have all the discovery and an injunction, which would stop them because we're asking a judge to look and see the certified copy of the invoice. They don't have one. To see the certified copy of the promissory note for a loan. They don't have one. And we also asked the bank to send a affidavit of debt. Someone in the bank has to swear out on penalty of perjury, which means they can go to jail or fines, that they actually is a debt. If they don't have that, they're held in contempt of court. So what all we're asking the bank to do is to close the account and remove the derogatory items. If that doesn't happen in 45 days, we send all that to the credit reporting agency because now we've documented that this is a crime, this is a fraud, and they have to, by law, remove it off the credit report. That's all we're looking for is to remove the bank-issued alleged credit card, which is not a debt.
So as I was reading about you, you were stuck with an $85,000 debt, a credit card debt, and you decided to sue the banks yourself.
Yes.
What I can't understand is that you can call it anything you like, but you gone and purchased $85,000 worth of goods, and those goods are in your custody or in your possession.
Okay.
Right? Now, how do you sue the bank and say, I won't pay you? What happens to the goods?
Right. So back it up here. I'm an author. I wrote a book on health and healing. And in 2004, I was given an infomercial contract and I was promised about $100,000 a month. So I had to test market this whole idea on radio for about 6 months. So I lived on 3 credit cards, like you say. And that's what I believed back then. I tried to live on these credit cards. So $85,000 was not a big deal. If I'm making 100,000, I'll have $15,000 ahead, right? So no big deal. Well, what happened is that one of the talents, he got in trouble with the government about false claims in his book, and it came down hard on the company and him, and my contract was canceled. So I was left with $85,000 of credit card debt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believed. So it dawned on me that being my dad was being a certified public accountant, and I was in school to be one. So I knew they didn't have an invoice.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a memory that they didn't have a promissory note. So the bank never issued me a loan.
Mm-hmm.
And the contractual agreement was not there because of fraud. So I filed 3 federal lawsuits against the banks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Things were going along pretty good, and we're going to get to a deposition. That means that someone in the bank is going to come to my office to answer my questions
Mm-hmm.
and bring the evidence of an invoice or a promissory note. Well, since they didn't have one, the judge called me in. And that's very strange. And the banks didn't show up. They didn't have to come. They asked me. So the judge said, Mr. Kilpatrick, do you have a credit card? Well, let me start at the beginning. Oh, we'll start at the beginning a little later. Do you have a credit card? Well, it started off as a gift card. A gift card. Open your wallet up. What's it say right there in your credit card? Credit card. You're an idiot. Get out of here. So he dismissed my 3 cases. But a month later, I looked at my credit report, and all 3 banks were off my credit report.
Mm-hmm.
My credit score improved after I sued them. So in my lawsuit, I explained the crimes they were committing, and I helped other people. I was given a charity, which I kind of revamped into credit repair.
Mm-hmm.
And some people had credit card debt, and I explained to them it really wasn't a debt.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did, I wrote a letter to the bank, and for about 1,000 people over a 7-year period, it never happened. So it took off the credit report. Nothing ever happened to them. They didn't get sued, and they didn't have to owe anything because it's not a debt. But if you keep saying it's a credit card debt's a debt, well, I can't help you. But you are a victim of what the banks have done is they've lied to you, because why they want you to be a customer is, here's the bottom line. They make $23.04 on average. Look it up yourself. What does the average person pay for the credit card fees?
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that Google search two months ago, it came up with $23.04. So if Bank of America, Bank of India, Bank of London, if they have 1 million cardholders, they're bringing in $23 million a month. And they are getting that money on, and it's about 1/4 of their profits comes from the scheme. And what they're doing, they're charging you $23 for a free checking account, because it's not their money. So when you bought that microphone, it was a gift, because they know you're going to be paying about $23 a month. So in 22 or 23 months, the bank is going to bring back the $500 they fronted you, in a sense. Mm-hmm. And now they're making $23 every month forever, even at a 79% interest rate. One podcaster told me he has paying $800 for an annual fee. Mm-hmm. I'm going, you're paying $800 for a free checking account? So then you think, oh, if you do this, you'll be banned. No, when I got off the farm and I decided to come to the Philippines, I needed to buy an airline ticket with a credit card, and I had to rent a car with a credit card. So I applied to Capital One, and they gave me, that's the important word, they gave me a $500 credit card, but I had no score and no history. I was a previous customer. It was one of the banks I sued for $35,000. So the bank doesn't care. After you send this letter off and you have it off your credit report and you don't owe anything, you can reapply for another credit card and do one without an annual fee. And if you make a purchase, pay it off, because you want to have your score go up. So you have to understand it's the game you have to play.
Tommy, we've run out of time, so I can't ask you too many more questions. But, I do want to tell my viewers and listeners that everything that Tommy has said is not endorsed by my channel at all. Please be very careful. Do not start getting into fights with your banks. I don't necessarily agree with it, but if you do want to discuss this, please reach out to Tommy directly, and you can debate it with him. I personally don't agree with this logic, because if you're going to take any kind of buy any kinds of goods, there will be some consideration for it, and for you to turn around and say that, or get into legalese, it's something this channel or I don't endorse. But Tommy, thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.